In the 3 months since I've been back at Red Deer Polytechnic, I've been reflecting on our connection to the broader community and our relevance within Central Alberta and beyond.
Thank you everybody for attending my talk here. My name is Peter Fiala. I'm one of the instructors in the Animation and Visual Effects 4-year program. And I'm a human, I'm not an AI. But I'm going to talk about what I started this past summer, implementing artificial intelligence into my own 3D artwork creation workflow, I suppose, to create artwork that's suitable for visual effects and for games. So let's see if I got this. All right, so when you are a 3D artist and you work at a big juggernaut of a studio, as a 3D artist, you rely heavily on people who are better than you at creating concept art. And that concept art goes through revisions. By the time it gets to you, you just do what you know how to do, which is make the 3D artwork. But what do you do when you are out on your own? Well, you're still going to make 3D art because it's who you are deep down into your soul, regardless of your life circumstances. But how do you create that concept art? Because basically the concept art is your plan. You figure out the structure, the aesthetics, you do all the problem solving in advance, so then you can just do what you know how to do. So in this case, you go to start your concept art research, you go to like ArtStation, websites like that where there's people from all over the world that do really good art that inspires you, or of course your cherished art of books from your favorite games and movies. And if you're working on any sort of a character, well, you better make sure you get some anatomy reference in there. And what you do is you then put all this together in like a virtual artboard, because all the artwork I'm talking about today is virtual in the computer. And you make your concept, and there's another example of everything. And you have this with you the whole time while you're working, and you keep referring to it. So there's some examples of those two characters that you saw the artboards for. So why, as a 3D artist, would you want to experiment with artificial intelligence? Well, if you see one of the things I've written there, the AI genie's out of the bottle. There's no shoving him back in. And as a 3D artist who's no longer supported by the juggernaut of a studio, maybe the AI can make me feel that way again. Maybe we'll be this team, and AI and I will make like awesome artwork together. And also, is it just ephemeral hype like NFTs or Dogecoin or something like that? Or do I really have to like retool my entire workflow? Or even worse, do I have to say to myself, you know, I had a good run as a 3D artist, but now I got to go train in something where the AI, like plumbing or something, where the AI will take a while to catch up, right? So now, one of the things that I can also say is that as a teacher here, for my students, they have to have a fighting chance of finding work. So there's all kinds of things that I need to experiment with to try it first. Maybe it never ends up in the classroom, or maybe it ends up in the classroom tomorrow. So now, some of the advantages, I'll talk a lot about how AI works, hopefully in the question/controversy section of this talk. But one of the things I found is you saw how I do my reference search and how I come up with my concept art. Well, there's only so many weeks in a lifetime, I guess, to look for stuff. And the AI in its data sets can look at millions of things, where I can look at maybe 50 or something in the attention span that I've got. And also, it's very good at iterating concepts. It's really, really quick. So here's an example being very meta, using a free AI to tech. By the way, I want to talk about text-to-image AI. I know that right now the media cycle is all about ChatGPT and stuff like that, and they've forgotten about us artists like they were talking about last summer, but it's still important to me. So here's a AI app on my phone. I start the app and I type in as a text prompt, man with beard giving PowerPoint presentation. And then I wait for the advertisements, right? And then I get this like hipster, and I'm like, oh no, and he's got hair. So I go back to the text prompt and I put bald man with beard doing PowerPoint presentation. And that's perfect. Look at the specular highlight on his head, and look how condescending he is standing on the table, you know, preaching down at his students. So, but that's just just for fun to get you an idea of what it's like. But didn't I say I was trying to be an artist? Well, this is the first app I started using last summer called Disco Diffusion. And I had to even read the text files and stuff to figure out how to install it, let alone how to use it. And like what you do is you give it a text prompt for something, and then you change some of the numbers from like 300 to 600, and somehow that changes the output image that you get generated for you. And the advantage of this one, though, is I can set it going to give me 20 iterations. I can go to bed and come back, get back in the morning and check out what I've been given. So here's an example of it being used. Every year for International Asteroid Day, I like to make some artwork just for fun. And on screen left here, so that's screen left, that's screen right, you'll see the 3D art, as proven by the fact that you see the wireframe unshaded there. And on screen right, what might be a little bit hard to see is a subtle star field I just made in Photoshop with some noise. But that wasn't a very exciting background. So then NASA released these images of these two galaxies that are either already 1 billion years ago smashed into each other, or they're about to, or something. I can't remember, I'm sorry. But these are not the original image either. These are me running it through the AI software to see if I could get kind of a background. But in the end, this is the final result. I ended up doing a lot of work in Photoshop by hand to clean it up. So the AI didn't give me the miracle, cure in that case. Now here's a more advanced use of AI. I'm a big fan of the Asimov Foundation series, and I read all the books after putting them down for like 30 years. I read them all again over the summer, and there's a character who's a villain called the Mule, and I wanted to make the character and his costume. So what you see here is, on the screen left, is a 3D model that I repurposed, and I just rendered it out from 3 different angles, and I thought, if I give the AI this image, can it understand that that's the same model, just rotated? And if you look on screen right, it might be a little bit hard to see, but the answer is no, it didn't quite get it. And what I ended up doing is, after a couple hundred of these images later on, I basically had shortlisted them, and on every layer here, I put a generated image in there from the AI with this little piece that I wanted to keep, and I erased everything else. So 37 layers later, here's my concept art for the costume. It's still kind of loose, but I knew exactly what I was going to do based on that. And then, so I did the same thing for his boots, and I sculpted and textured the head, and he's supposed to be like a punchable face, because he's the villain, he's got a big nose. And I wanted to see same thing. If I render like front, 3/4 side, does the AI know that that's the same face? Because we can all tell us, hopefully, it's the same face. And it didn't work, so I started putting like, he's supposed to be like a combination between like a jester, and he actually takes over the galaxy as like a naval commander, but anyway. Here's some of the rejected hat designs. And then here's my short list, and then you can see after all that technology, I go to like almost a napkin sketch, and that's what I use to make the 3D model that you see there. And this character, he could influence people's emotions, and he had this musical instrument he would use. And I just put a Yamaha guitar through, and these are some of the more appealing images, but imagine how hard that is to build in 3D. So anyway, this is what I ended up with. This is my game-ready real-time character. Just needs a skeleton for some animation. And now I want to talk about something else. This is I like to do assignments along with my students, and we do a sci-fi crate in my hard surface modeling class. And the students didn't have to use AI, but I wanted to do it just to show them. And going against everything I believe in, which is to plan everything and make sure you figured out everything in advance with the concept art, and then you make the model. I just decided whatever it gave me, I would make the model of it. And so, although the one on the screen, so screen left is the AI concept, screen right is my adaptation in 3D. And on screen left, it might look like a cohesive model to you, but actually it's more like a cubist painting where there's like 4 or 5 different perspectives in there. And as soon as you start trying to line up some cubes and stuff like that, you realize that this thing couldn't actually exist in the universe that we walk around in. It just doesn't work. And also, if you look at the grocery store shopping cart like wheels that don't roll very well, I had to fix those, right? So, and then of course, it only gave me that 1/3 view. So intuiting, like, I couldn't figure out what the design style was there, but I still tried my best, and I made the other sides of the object that you wouldn't have seen from the concept art. So some reflections to sum up here. It didn't replace my old workflow. It wasn't the dream team member that I was hoping for. I still had to do a lot of work. I'm by no means an expert, but and that was just to make the 2D concept. And of course, after that, I still have to make the 3D model, and I have to texture it and light it and render it and so on. And some other reflections I want to talk about before talking about like controversy and so on is what I found is it turned me into almost like a gambling addict at the one-armed bandit with my bucket full of tokens and hissing at people when they came near me. I'm like, this next one for sure, it's the $1 million idea, right? And 8 hours later, I haven't slept and I'm still doing this, right? Hoping for the ideal concept. And something else I can say about it is that in my case, you just kind of have to rely on your training and your expertise as the priority. And then you can use the AI as sort of like spice. But this is all based on software that was out last summer, so that stuff, gets better in leaps and bounds every day. So now for the question period here, there's another meta slide there of bald man giving PowerPoint presentation, and I thought that was amazing. So if there's any questions, if not, I can get to the controversy here. But so.
I'll just get to the controversy.
Okay, all right. All right, so, perfect, thank you. Yeah, there we go. We didn't even rehearse. So anyway, what you can see here is, if any of you are old enough to remember the Terminator 2 1991 movie, there's a scene where the T-800, like, there's a flash forward, and there's this, like, there's an AI called Skynet, and its whole goal is to eradicate humanity, and it makes these metal, like, robots. Sometimes they have skin on top of them, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And anyway, there's a scene where it, like, stomps on this skull, and it turns and fires its lasers and everything. So the artist that did this wasn't me. Their name is Reno Pixelu, or rpixelu on Twitter. They did this amazing, to illustrate the controversy. There's the T-800 stealing the jobs of the artists, working at the Wacom tablet, and with the skulls of the artists at his feet that he took the jobs away from. Okay, so that's part of the controversy, and nobody could express it better than that. That's amazing. But so not being a scientist, not being a programmer, the way, I'll just give you my pseudoscientific explanation, and hopefully it's accurate enough. The AI programs are trained on data sets of images where, let's call it like it started out like a mechanical Turk type process, which means some human being somewhere not being paid very much. There's a picture of the cat, and they type cat, and they associate the picture with the word cat, and then there's a picture of a dog, and they type dog. And then millions of those later, you have this data set that somehow these big corporations that have the billions of dollars that can build these server farms that can compute all this stuff with the training, that's where they started all their images from. So now imagine you're Tina, and Tina has a beautiful like work of art, and there's a gallery that wants to use it. So they take, like in the year 2020 or 2021, something like that, they take pictures of it. And then how would Tina have known that in the year 2023 there'd be these AI programs that were using images like hers that they found, and they didn't ask Tina for permission, they didn't give Tina credit, they didn't pay Tina anything for it, and then somebody like me comes along and pays $14.99 a month for Disco Diffusion to work with it, and then some apps tell you, oh, you can, now you own it, and so you can sell it as like an NFT, bro, and to some celebrity who puts it on their nightly comedy show or something like that. So that's part of the controversy, right? And where else can I go with that? Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments on the controversy?
Yeah.
What do you hope to be the application of this learning in terms of how you might use it, either in your teaching or your program or outside?
Right. Well, what do I hope? To be honest with you, I was just kind of feeling like I better understand it a little bit, rather than just sort of anonymously like getting involved in some flame war on social media or something. I kind of just wanted to know a little bit about it, and the only way for me was to try it. What I hope is that, well, if we're talking about ethics and controversy right now, when we talk about ChatGPT and those kind of text-based ones where the English professors are worried about like people plagiarizing and so on, Google and Bing, they're going to have this thing where as you ask it something, it'll give you a synopsis, then it'll give you like hyperlinks to, this is where I got this piece of what I told you, this is where I got this piece. So maybe for some of these art text-to-image ones, maybe what they can do is the computer's going to know where it got, say, 50% of that image from or something like that. So maybe they can give you the image as well as an attribute like a hyperlink or something. So just that's where I hope it goes in terms of fairness. Where I hope it goes in terms of research, I'm not sure. I'm going to keep going this summer with some other stuff where I'm going to work with 3D models maybe with AI generating. Yeah.
So on your controversy and ethical concerns, we deal with data sets, and a lot of the machine learning data sets are built on not diverse populations.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you're finding the same thing in art. If you're like, do you just naturally pull up white people, or is that, and is that because the data being used is mostly white, or is it
Good question. So I haven't actually, if you look at those two examples, I never actually looked for any sort of ethnicity. I just typed person with a beard, a man with a beard, bald guy with a beard, and both of them that came up were white, right? So I have lots of those that I didn't, I would say the majority were, yeah, I think, yeah.
So we have reached our time, so we're welcome to stay and continue asking questions, or you can end if that's your preference. But if anybody wants to go on to the other presentations in the other rooms, you're free to do that at this point as well. We can clap and then.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for coming.